curling. And I was like, no way. And I was like, we love that sport. And I said, I've always wanted to try it.
It's a lot of work.
I just be pushing the disc. That's it. I don't want to be doing the scraping.
It's a lot harder than I've only done it one time. It's hard.
You've done it. Yeah, that's why
It's like you gotta bend down and hold a big heavy
And I can't
thing
do
while you're
that.
kind of bending. It's like a little sketchy.
Yeah.
How was the council member to see that sent in here tonight? I didn't
So
get a
I'm
chance
just
to
gonna
ask
find
her.
out. Huh?
Oh.
Okay. All right, good evening, guys. Thanks everyone for coming. We will start our open public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, I'm ahead of myself. Gas Commission meeting.
There was, the whole reason why all this was is it's a carryover from the last council. We were talking about it, questioning the setup. I had questions, they had questions, and so by the time we were able to get this meeting together, it happened after we have a new council. So there might be some council members wondering, why are we even here? Why did this hold back? One of the questions that we had submitted and we got answers to last year was stating that there was an agreement. They can enter into agreement with the city, and so I was just asking, well, where is this agreement? What is the agreement? What are the terms and details? And it seemed as if there wasn't one. Now, if one of them produces in the next couple seconds, and that's great, but I guess an agreement just needs to be made with the city and the gas commission, who does what for whom, and how is it set up? Because we have new people, now even more new people. And the council, at least last year, had questions. This council, I'm not certain if everybody does, but that was kind of the premise of having a meeting jointly between the two. There was just a lot of questions that were remained open at that. So I guess my question is, what is the agreement? Because I asked Bob, he didn't know. I asked Kyle, he didn't have one. He didn't know, so we kind of, again, it's back to the whole, in 40 years, I want somebody to be able to look at something and know exactly what the setup is for the city and the gas commission. Is that true?
Yeah. Mayor, can I add a little more flavor to that? And we probably want to have just a discussion, I think, after that. But so I'm still relatively new. I'm going to get wrong how long I've been the city attorney. 3 years, 2.5 years. I don't know, something like that. Not real long. So, but you know, from the first days that I came in, then Jill, the clerk, passed along either her own questions. She had questions about the relationship between the city council, and the gas commission. So she either was passing along her own questions or questions from council members and from other staff people. Anyway, I got a bunch of questions from her, and then since then, Lisa has passed along some of her own questions and questions from some of you. And sort of if I summarized all of the questions, they would be sort of, is this set up right? Is the gas commission set up right? Can the gas commission do this? Can the city council do this in relation to the gas commission? Is it right the way we pick gas commission board members? Is it right the way we work with Kyle on what Kyle does for the city and how he's treated as an employee? Who's really in charge of Kyle? Et cetera, et cetera. You get kind of the flavor of the questions I've been asked. And my answer on almost all of those has been, and I want to kind of emphasize that now for everybody, is I don't know. Because the question keeps getting put to me as though because I'm a lawyer and because I'm the city attorney, I should know how it all works. As though state law, the state statute about utility commissions, or the city's code provision, you have a provision in your city code about your gas commission, as though the answers are sort of hidden in there somewhere. And if you're a lawyer, you can tease out the answers to all those different questions. And I'm here to tell you, I can't. And my answer has been now for 2 years, 3 years, however long I've been here. I don't know what's the deal. What is the arrangement between the gas commission and the city? Because most of those questions can be answered by just agreeing. We can just agree that and again, to summarize the questions, fundamentally the question is, I think, is the gas commission just a department of the city? Is it just a city department that's entirely under the city council? Or is it a totally separate, almost like a separate business that has some connection to the city, but it's really basically a separate business? Those are two totally different ends of the spectrum, right? And the answer to that, again, is it is done a variety of different ways in different cities around the state. There isn't just like, this is the way it has to be done. It can't be done this way, it has to be done this way. I just can't give you that answer because that answer just doesn't exist. And so what I've really always wanted is just, and I asked Jill, I've asked Kyle indirectly, I've never asked you directly, Kyle, but indirectly, and I've asked council members and the prior mayor and et cetera, et cetera. I've said, why don't we just write down the way we all think it's working right now? Who's doing what for who's handling what? Let's make a complete list of everything. The entirety of the relationship, as much of the detail as we can come up with collectively. And then let's just decide if it's working or not. If some part of the way it's happening doesn't work, let's just change it. Let's just change the way that works. And almost everything that we could come up with could be changed. There's a few things that the statute and your code say about, for example, selecting board members. It is correct that board members currently have to be from the city. I don't think that's been changed. I know that's been proposed to be changed, but that could be changed, right?
Yeah, not
State-
from the city, you just have to be.
Be a
Yes.
customer. So that was the way it was, and that did get changed. Okay, so the code on that got changed. So that's an example of something that is addressed in the statute, and the statute does say members of the board of the of any utility commission don't have to be from the city unless the city council says they have to be from the city. So that's an area where the city can decide whether you want to let, and we did, you changed apparently the code language on that. But that's an example of like one specific thing where the law addresses it, but most of the other stuff, I've had as an example, Kyle, I think you're on para, I think you get para, Bennett. Is that right? I can't go look at some law and say, oh yeah, the superintendent of a gas commission must be on a city's para. There's no law that says that, right? So it can be done that way. I mean, it's being done that way, right? But does it have to be done that way? No. Could it be done a different way? I think it could. So most of the questions just are not things that, I'm frustrated a little bit because I don't know the answers to most of the questions I keep getting. I just want us to write down, figure out what the way it's working now and decide if it works for both parties. Because to some extent, there are two parties here. I mean, I think that there is obviously we're at least cousins, if not more than cousins, right? The gas commission and the city council. So there's clearly, we're in the same family here. So, but how close we are and all that stuff, I mean, that's just stuff we gotta just agree on and just work out. So enough blathering by me, but that's sort of the summary of my involvement. I've had lots of emails back and forth with the former mayor and with Jill and with Lisa and with various folks, but kind of the summary of my answer is, I don't know. Let's just have an agreement about that and work it out and just agree on it.
So I guess from being on city council and being on the gas commission at separate times, the understanding that I keep seeing is I'm glad you just said I don't know, because that's not saying that makes it easier, but it's nice to hear that. But it's also, I agree with Lisa, there's a lot of questions that happen, and so I think if we can just, everything's going between the two of us good right now, right? Everything that I understand, I mean, it's all hunky-dory, everything's working out fine, we scratch each other's back and we're going fine. So I guess, as long as there's not a riff anywhere, let's just keep things going as is.
The reason I was questioning because again, I hear things, I hear that Kyle doesn't work for the city, but he does work for the city, and the city owns it, and then he does it, and then it's like, well, why is it on his paycheck that says City of Goodyear? And then because not knowing what it was before I got here, it was like, well, why is this happening?
Okay.
So a lot of the questions came from a financial way.
Understandably.
Para, the state sales tax for gas, social, paying Social Security, paying FICA, paying all of these things. I didn't want it to be like, well, somebody audited you going, why have you been paying it this whole time and he's not in it? But I didn't want the city to get in trouble for doing it. So that's why I'm like, Bob, is this the way it's supposed to be? And he's like, well, I don't know. Because what's the agreement that you've had? Because I was asking questions.
So if we didn't supply this for Kyle, then who does?
So like right now, like all the payroll and stuff
we just do that, but then we get gas commission reimburses the city for it. So that's how it works right now.
So you don't work for the city, you work for the gas commission.
Yes and no. So the,
That's a yes or no
That's
question.
been the question.
and let's, I guess, can we take a step back?
Yep.
Wayne, can you, you're, how do I say it? You're the, not mastermind, you're the guy who knows a lot about the entity of the gas commission because you were with it from inception
Yes.
or near it. So can we get the synopsis and the history of the gas commission?
So I was on the city council when Xcel Energy approached the city about being the developer to bring gas into this community. Prior to that, the city had requested public utility companies to bring in gas, but basically their answer was, well, at the time, you just lay $300,000 on the table and we'll come because of our density. So a public utility comes into Goodhue and puts the infrastructure in and supplies us with gas. They have to treat us the same thing, the same way as they do people in the metro area, Red Wing, or wherever they else. And so, you know, it was a money-losing proposition, so they never wanted to do it. So when Xcel Energy said, we have a new program, you know, where we're gonna be a developer and bring natural gas to small communities, you know, here's your opportunity. So, and I think there's only probably 2 other cities that did that in the state of Minnesota. At the time that happened, we had only 1 employee, and that was a part-time bookkeeper. There was three board members, no manager or whatever. I guess we kind of self-appointed, you know, Vaughn being the manager or whatever. And so it grew from no employees to what it is today. And so the relationship, okay, originally when it was set up, and this is what I was told, that we were immune to political bullshit, okay? So, if there was one time the city council thought that, oh, we wanna do this, we wanna do that. And my reply was, if that's what you wanna do, then you wanna make one decision, you make them all. Because we have a business to run here. We're regulated by the state of Minnesota. And Kyle can go through all that because.
I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt.
Pardon?
So when you say we, you're talking, so when Xcel came in here, right?
Correct.
So they said the gas commission was formed, that's what you mean when you're saying we, right? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, okay.
All right,
Okay.
and so, and there was, when you mentioned that, I kind of lost that train of thought.
Cause you were talking to the council at that time about stuff that they didn't want.
Well, when I was just, when she brought that up, I thought of something for a second, but
Oh.
I lost it. But anyway, yeah, so, because like I said, we were told that we had a business to run and that, you know, we can't run a business if we have the city council overriding us or changing or doing this or whatever, because there's so many things that are variables in what we do, and our goal is not to be a burden on the taxpayer, but number one is sell gas to our clients at the most reasonable price that we can do it. And you know, we can go through all that history district if you want. And, but through the whole time, we always sent an invitation to council members to attend any meeting they want. And that's still an open invitation. And you know how many have attended in 30 years? 3 or 4, you know.
So I got a question real quick.
Yeah.
When you say that you were being told all the time about information, who was telling you this?
No, I guess you have to.
You said that you were being told that there were so many different variables, you know, about.
In our business?
Yeah.
We just.
Are you hiding the state is telling you this, or?
No, I mean variables of running the business as far as buying gas, you know, and doing everything we have to do. You know, it's, that's why we're pretty adamant about the city, not developing any more lots right now. Because I don't care what business or what government you're in, if you're not growing, you are a burden on the taxpayer, because all of our expenses increase automatically, whether we want it or not, you know, payroll, maintenance, it just goes on and on. And if you rely on this same number of people to pay for a new sewer plant down in Dodge County or Olmsted County or Southern Goodhue County, you're gonna put that burden on the same number of taxpayers. People aren't gonna wanna move to this community. And so I always say, communities are in competition with one another. And so, anyway.
So if, I always find that, there are lots of these detailed things. I tried to give you a list of some of the questions that I've been asked that are kind of detailed questions, you know, Kyle Para, the city's oversight over the board, you know, these are all, to me, those are all detailed. I find a lot of times it comes down to money, right? That the money at the end of the day is kind of an important thing in the middle of the room. And so I wonder if we have a sense for what the finances of the gas commission look like. And what I mean by that is, I understand that Kyle, for example, does some stuff for the city. You provide some services of value to the city. And clearly the city provides some stuff of value to the gas commission, right? We do some bookkeeping and we do, you know, para and the insurance and da-da-da. So, but I'm not sure that that's ever really been itemized, like how much value you give to the city and the gas commission gives to the city, the direct value, as opposed to, I appreciate Wayne's point that having gas service in this town is important, obviously. So, but, so do we have a sense for, given the revenues of the gas commission and roughly speaking, the expenses of running it, is the city subsidizing this, or is it subsidizing the city, or what's the money like? How's the money working?
I guess for like just labor wise, we try to, you know, keep it so it's a wash, you know. I guess since we started doing our own services and emergency response stuff, it's more, we haven't, like during the days, if we have to do something, we're not keeping track of each other's time, because I guess if we're sitting there staring at our watch every 15 minutes, trying to save money for each other, that's, you know, when mistakes can happen. And with the natural gas stuff, we don't want mistakes to be happening like that, especially with gas leaks and all that.
Well, I think it's an important area. I mean, you can appreciate that if the city found that it's subsidizing the gas commission to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars in staff time and staff work, the city would have to take a look at, does that make sense, or is there a better way to do this,
I
right?
do have a rough estimate kind of what we do, if you guys want me to get that.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not costing the city tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, that's not happening.
No, and like when Jill was out for them a few months, I was helping out as much as I was helping out as much as I could, and, you know, I told Wayne, it's like, we're not gonna charge the city for that, just cause we're trying to work together, that's the whole
Yeah.
goal of everything.
Well, and I think that's always been the scenario from everything from I've started, from, you know, the departure of the last city council where, you know, Kyle chose to not go on a trip and the state back took care of the city and, you know, the gas commission reimbursed him for his travel, if I remember correctly. To, you know, I know, if I remember right, Kyle, do you work the weekends with Todd and Jason? Are you on rotation or no?
Yeah, so like if I'm on call for gas, then I'll be on call for the water and sewer.
Yeah. So it does come out to be a wash. Also, you guys own equipment that the city gets to use, such as the folder, right? Isn't there a machine that
Yeah, the
automatically
billing-
folds
Yeah, the billing.
and stuff like that? So there's, you know, and you guys own that versus the city. So again, you're allowing the city to use it. So it's a give and take scenario again. It's again scratching each other's back, all in the name of fairness, not one taking over the other. But I understand on your point, we have to look at it from a financial aspect of, is one entity scratching the other back more than the other?
So I think I think what I'm hearing is you guys kind of act independently, right? You're an independent business. And I think what I'm
That's-
hearing
that's
is you
what
don't
we're
want to,
told.
you don't want city council involved in your business. Okay, I just want to make
But-
sure I was hearing that
but,
right.
you
I
know,
wouldn't
you-
say not involved.
Not
We
involved,
want
but
input and all that.
Yeah,
But I just mean at a micro level.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
That's what I thought.
And I guess, from what I remember being on council and from being on the gas commission when we discussed it is, you guys have your own board and Wayne is the president. And basically you guys handle your day-to-day stuff. Wayne is basically your manager to go to talk about day-to-day operations going on and stuff like that. If any decisions have to be made, your board makes them. And then if there's any large decisions, they do have to come to council. How do I say large?
If
Yeah, I
it's
was
gonna
gonna say,
affect
can
like
you-
the city.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like, could you
Correct.
give me, like, when would that ever happen?
'Cause,
Like,
like-
just like in my,
We changed the ordinance, when I was on, the ordinance was changed. It stated that you had to live in the city to be on the gas commission.
oh, so stuff like that.
I didn't feel that was right when I was on because you had members of the customers.
Previous members that were
Okay, so that's what.
customers, but not within the city limits. And they
So,
were removed from,
I get it. When you said large, I was like, I'm in
Yeah.
digging up
Yeah.
trenches or
No,
whatever.
no,
Okay,
so,
okay, I see what
but,
you're.
I mean,
I
even
see.
for instance, when you guys ran that extra line into town, that didn't go before council.
No,
But I also see that being day-to-day operations. I mean,
Right.
you guys needed more supply to town,
And like
and you
if,
had to do
like
that.
if we were gonna try to do that ourselves and, you know, take up months of Jason and Todd's time, which, I mean, we wouldn't do that anyways, but then we would be coming to the city and talking about that.
Discussing things, yeah.
so if I may say something, you
Yeah.
know, through the years, since Kyle's been the manager, we've had crisis within the city employment and workers. And Kyle's worked 2 jobs to pull the city through, and every one of those. I mean, and he probably put in 80 hours a week instead of 40 hours a week, did not ask for any more compensation. And, you know, we're still a small town, you know, and your budget, I don't think you could handle a budget that'd be a big town, you know? So, that's the way it's been done. And you have to understand how this thing grew from no employees to where we are today, is that XL Energy in the beginning did certain tasks for us, you know. Now we do, and XL Energy was very difficult to work with. Right.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
what one person told you today was not recalled tomorrow, or whatever your agreement was. So finally, we reached a point where we both agreed that we go our separate ways. So when that happened, then now we had the responsibility of finding, what would you say, contractors, Kyle or whatever,
Yeah,
to do the
contractors.
things that we weren't capable of doing at the time. And so we've grown through that, and so, for emergency response, we work with the city of Austin, you know, where we went through a period of time where XL Energy was our response people. Then it was Q3, but once we had a major project moving our line, and there was no pot at the end of, no pot of gold at the end of the road, then they started jacking the price up where we couldn't afford to. So we kept taking on more responsibility, and they all fall on his shoulders. And, you know, and I'll say that, I say this numerous times. When people say, what is Kyle's job? I tell them that Kyle's job is to keep this community safe, you know. And we're regulated, not by the city council, something bigger than what you are, and that's the state of Minnesota, the PUC.
Mhm.
You know, so.
Not your rates, but your rates aren't regulated
No,
by the
but-
PUC, but your
Like
quality of
the
service
state-
and the safety standards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, state.
How we do everything, people have to be qualified. Fortunately, the board members don't have to be qualified.
Right.
So,
Well, I'm gonna make my last pitch. I hear the view that the gas commission is okay with the way it's working with the city is okay with the way it's working with the gas. I totally hear that. You gotta appreciate lawyers, right? A little bit appreciate lawyers. The only time I get really called about things is when something really bad happens, or we have a big disagreement, right? That's when you call a lawyer, right? Something really bad happened, the gas line blew up, or we have a big fight going with the gas commission. And it's been my experience that the best time to just write stuff down is when everybody's happy with each other. That's the easiest time, right? It's really hard to write it all down when we have a disagreement or something bad happened. And I would be totally fine if the agreement was a page and a half long and it just said, to the extent Kyle is free and the city needs things done, Kyle is going to help. And to the extent the gas commission has some equipment that the city needs to use and it's available, the city can use it. And to the extent the gas commission needs some help from office staff at the city's going to provide it. It doesn't have to be super complicated, right? I just would like there to be a piece of paper that says that's kind of, because that's kind of what I'm hearing is, if Kyle's available or a piece of equipment's available and the city needs it for some other utility problem that's not the gas line problem, we can use it, right? And it's kind of the way it works, and vice versa. And you know, if Lisa can provide a little bit of back office help to the gas commission on something, we kind of do it. That's fine. It's just having that piece of paper, if something bad happens in 3 years, will be useful to the lawyers in the room, right? It'll be like, they weren't just winging and praying it here. They had an agreement, right? So that's my last pitch on that, I guess.
I have,
a question. So, at one point, and I don't know if I have this right, you know, the council made a decision that all city employees could not get overtime, or what was that?
All the personnel policy, so
Oh, yeah.
the on-call.
Oh, yeah, if you're on call, they couldn't get paid. Now,
That was a League of Minnesota shit, not a
Right.
council thing. It was a League of Minnesota cities,
okay,
not a city council decision.
It was just in their plan.
it's in whose
In the
plan?
League of
The League of
Minnesota.
Minnesota cities.
Okay, so how does that affect
Yeah.
us?
Well, it was in the template.
So, wait, I'm
I'm
confused.
so confused.
So if you're a correct me if I'm wrong, if you're a salaried employee,
Oh, you can't get
you don't
overtime.
get on-call pay, correct?
It's the hours
I think
worked.
that's what it, yeah.
So
whether
if you're an
exempt or
hourly,
non-exempt.
if you're an hourly employee, you get on-call time.
Right,
right?
so you're either exempt or not.
Correct.
Okay.
So that was the thing, is when Kyle is on call, he's not getting paid to be on call because he's a salaried employee.
Oh, you are?
No, he's not. What-
That's
His,
what
his
it's-
paycheck is
no, that's
based
what
on
it's
an
been
hourly
stated.
rate, pardon?
Well, right.
I've always
No,
been
that's
salaried.
No, that's what it's been stated by him.
Yeah.
That's what,
I've always been salaried. That's how you guys set it up.
but it's based on a 40-hour week.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So does that mean now that Kyle can't get paid for being on call?
Right,
Well, I think that's why we're
That's what
here.
I'm saying, is
Let's-
that was your question, right?
Right.
Yeah, that,
Well, but this
Like,
is,
we haven't
this is a prime example of, I mean, one of the first questions I had from Jill back when I first came in was, the city has personnel policies. We have policies for employees of the city. Does that apply to Kyle? And of course I said, I don't know.
Well, that's my, I guess
I don't
my
know.
question.
I like the exempt and
I-
non-exempt,
you know,
is
We need our
is
own
a
policy.
federal.
Yeah,
It's a-
well,
It is.
so, but the reason it
Okay,
came up with
so-
Jill was that there's some accounting and bookkeeping, et cetera, functions that the city provides to you, as I understand it. And she wanted to know whether the city's personnel policies for calculating your pay applied to you or not. Because the city is doing that work, right? We're doing
Right.
some of that accounting work. So do I apply the city's personnel policies to him or not? And I said, I don't know. And ultimately, I think the decision has been, you're not subject to the city's personnel policies, which then begs the question, how do we calculate things? If we calculate it for ourselves a certain way, how do we calculate it for you? We don't know. We don't have a policy on that, right? So, this is just one example of just where cleaning it up would be
I
good.
gotta state my question, I'm very protective of Kyle.
Mhm.
You know, because without Kyle, if something happened to Kyle tonight on his way home, we're screwed, you know, because, we'd have to get somebody in that's qualified to meet all his qualifications just to run the gas business. So that's why I'm always protective of Kyle. And so, can we clear that issue up? Can he get paid for, because he's on call for the city too.
Mm-hmm.
You get paid for that, Kyle?
Yes, like technically for the city, I'm like a
It's a
part-time
separate-
employee for that stuff.
Okay.
So that's separate.
That on-call, that's a federal thing. It's not us. That's a
Right.
federal law.
So if we're gonna pay Kyle for being on call,
You have to
Because we
make him an
have to have-
hourly employee.
say that again?
You have to make him an hourly employee.
Okay.
So you can either be an hourly employee and collect and be paid overtime, right? Or you're a salary employee and you can work 10 hours a week, 40 hours a week, or 80
right.
hours a
Yeah.
week. And that's just
Yeah.
kind
Right,
of.
and that's the way we've done it. It was
Right.
more like it was 2000.
But you can't be both.
It was 2009 when like Excel pulled out, so we were forced to do our own emergency response.
Right.
So that's when, like me and then the public works, we have to be on a weekly rotation for that. So then
Right.
that's when we started getting compensated for that.
so, Wayne, so it pretty much sounds like, you guys don't have a backup plan if you would lose Kyle. Right?
There's phone calls, it would be difficult and expensive, but it can be done.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think the other thing is that as I'm listening to this and hearing, like you talked about the two situations where he really had to put in a lot of time. My question here to us, because I wasn't here then, is, or Lisa, isn't there anything that we could do for him at a time like that is not frequent, but it still exists? I think there should be some type of, I don't want to use the word reward because it's not, you're,
Oh, I don't.
Compensation.
it's got some kind of compensation for that few times, because I think it's only fair though. I know you're not asking for it, but when you do something like that, it just seems, I understand you're not an hourly employee, but at the same time, I mean, showing gratitude goes a long ways.
None of us were here.
Right.
I was here.
No, I mean, in the positions that were in, I don't know if you were.
No, I don't think anyone.
No, I was here when he was working for the city and, because I came down here.
Right.
And I mean, it was like pandemonium.
And that isn't the first time.
Right.
Right. And so,
No, for like when the public works was gone, I got compensated for that. Just because I had to do most of the gas stuff after hours.
Okay, got you.
so what you're saying is, this issue about paying Kyle for being on call, we have to solve that within our own.
Yeah,
No, because that's kind of a federal thing.
well, no,
Well, you can make him hourly.
yeah,
Or hourly.
you can make them
You can make him an hour
employee.
Right.
And then you can pay him overtime.
Well, presumably he gets to go on vacation
Yeah.
once in a while. And the city doesn't dictate that. I mean, as I understand it,
No,
the city's personnel policies don't apply to him. So how much vacation he gets every year is up to the gas commission. And I don't know what the answer to that
In
is.
the past, we've always just used the city's personnel policy for
Okay.
that. That's why the question with the on-call stuff got brought up.
Well, all right, so,
That's why.
and to the extent you like, you being the board, Wayne, you and your board, to the extent you like the city's personnel policies or find them useful, you can just use them, that's fine. When I say, is he subject to the city's personnel policies, I'm saying, is ultimately the city his employer,
No.
right? And I think the answer is no, and I think that's what I've heard a couple of times, so, but, you know, because if literally the city's personnel policies applied to Kyle, then he'd be reporting to the city council at the end of the day, and the city council would decide how much vacation he gets, and, because the city applies its personnel policies, right? So, but you can use them, I mean, you can adopt them yourself and use them yourself, but my understanding is the board wants to be in a position to decide how much vacation Kyle gets, or when he goes on vacation, or what he has to tell you about, you know, I presume he can't just come to you, Wayne, and say, I'm gonna be gone next week all week, right? You need to have a little time in advance to know that, so you got some coverage, and,
he has that, he knows what he has to arrange in
Yeah.
order to leave.
yeah,
Right.
but it's not the city's problem,
No.
as it stands now, yeah.
Up until this point, our problems were never the city's problems, and the city's problems were never our problems. And so, and I understand where Lisa's coming from. And so, we're in favor of 1 page or 16 pages of stuff, you know, to
Don't invite me to write 16 pages of stuff now. I can do it, god darn it.
I guess what needs to happen is, you know, who pays the or, you know, does the gas manager get para? Yes, that's question one. Just, you two, I mean, work it out, figure out what it is that you do for the city, for yourself, that the city's involved in, and then just,
And like I said, I wanted to make sure that, I didn't want to come back to the city. Why are you paying somebody that is not the city, and they're all the stuff on top of his paperwork says the city, like para, that I was trying to protect the city to make sure we weren't gonna get fined for doing something we weren't supposed to be doing.
Do we feel like we know, like, on the question of who insures your property? Like, I understand the League of Minnesota Cities insurance covers gas commission
The
stuff. Do you handle that, or who handles telling the league what the gas commission owns?
Well, he had.
He comes up with the
breakdown.
inventory and,
It's an expense and a time are the only two big things, aren't they?
That was with Jerry.
Yeah. And that was the first time I had been through it. I had no clue that he produced to them what the gas commission part.
Mhm.
All I did was check the check mark that said, yes, we have a gas
See,
commission.
the expense stuff, this was the first year I gave that to Jerry, otherwise the city was.
Oh, it was
supplying
the
that.
first?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
They take
I thought
that
was
number off
all the
the-
time.
like the end of the year financials I'd give you guys, they just do something with that, I guess. But yeah, the time allocation part, I send that to Jerry just because the more time I'm in the office, the cheaper the insurance is. So we break it down for that.
And you're covered by workers' comp through the league.
Yep.
And all that's, everybody understands all that stuff.
Yeah, we have been reimbursing the city for that
Okay.
portion of it,
Yep.
everything. So I guess, I don't know,
Well, and that was, trying to get that number was a bit difficult. Having a gas commission, so I knew what to charge him.
Yep.
That one, I didn't believe how hard that was to get that amount.
But I think the biggest thing is just work together, figure out who does what, and then just come back with us with a list of
well,
things.
a while back, I had, or not specific tasks, some while back, I had a breakdown, kind of just a rough estimate of what we've done.
Yeah.
I can get that to you all.
I mean, it's not, I mean, what's been working has been working just fine. So,
When the city built this building and we occupied it, the city didn't ask for rent. We offered a $500 month payment to the city for rent, based on nothing other than the city built a new building and we wanted to help out. The swimming pool, they heat their water with natural gas. They have, the only source of income they have, other than membership or whatever, is the shortfall through the city of Goodhue, through your general fund. We, I think every year, make concessions.
Most years, and then, yeah, we have a big discount on what we charge for the swimming pool.
yeah, it's like we usually, what it cost, and
Yeah, we've done for costs.
there's a discount that it cost or something.
I think we've even donated.
There's been a few years we just,
Donate a couple $1,000 to the gas
Yeah,
or something.
yeah, and so. And Kyle does a lot of goodwill things around town. And so, anyway.
I just wanna say that this whole thing is probably me, because I came in and I'm like, why is it set up this way? Why is it this way? Why is it this way? And I'm like, Bob, is it? And that, because it was like, wait a minute, he pays rent. Nobody else, Lori doesn't pay rent for her office. You know, it was like, is he part of it or is he not? You know, and so I was asking a lot of questions
my
because
guess,
I was trying to protect the city.
my guess is when they set it up and only had one employee, like, I think if I read the state statute right, like, you can come to agreements between the city and the utilities. So the city would do the payroll and stuff, as long as they're getting
And
reimbursed.
that's
As
fine.
far as I know,
Like I said,
that's just,
I kept asking him and he's like, I don't know, what's the setup? And I don't know what the setup is. You know,
right, and I
so-
can only speculate. And
And that is,
I'm guessing it was because it was one person, so they didn't feel the need to, you know, make the gas company pay for a payroll program and all that stuff for one person.
And I only keep saying that I don't know the answer to these questions because, and I think you know this better than I do, there are some municipal utilities, Owatonna, Hibbing has a big one, where the utility literally is completely separate, right? I mean, they are separately insured by the league, they are an entity unto themselves, everything is separate. The money is totally, there's no crossover, and so, they can be done that way, and there's others where it's just literally a department of the city, right? It's no different than Lisa's department, or,
So
so,
I think, yeah, every city's different.
right.
It can be set up like the water department in most towns in Minnesota, or it can be set up like it's
Wayne, you talked about not having representation there at your gas commission meetings. When do you have them? When,
The third Monday of every month.
third Monday?
Yep, at 4:45.
So what we do is, we accommodate any new board member. So that time does change, from, it might be the same for 6 years or 1 year or whatever, it's, you know, so all the board members are available on that time every month. Otherwise, you know, we have to go through the same procedure you do for your meetings.
How many members do you have?
3.
On your board? 3, okay.
Where do you meet? Do you meet here? Yeah, okay, yeah. I assume so.
You pay rent?
Yeah, I, zero problem with it. Yeah, that's good, yeah.
Anybody have anything
I'm,
else?
No, I don't.
and Lisa, I think, you know, I appreciate, the effort that you put in, you know, when you were concerned about where everything laid, you know, because that is exactly what we need you for. So I don't think that it was too much to ask, you know, I
Fine with me.
appreciate it, yeah. Yeah, when, yeah, so. Anything else for you, Bob?
No, that's great.
Well, thanks for.
I think we're
yeah,
good,
too,
yeah.
Especially you, Kyle.
Try to get to one of your meetings too.
And if you wanna, yeah, anytime any of you wanna stop in and we'll learn some more about the
Learn
system.
some more about gas.
Well, that's the only way to learn, yeah,
Right.
you know, it's good, appreciate it.
No, I can, yeah, take you around and
Yeah, that I
show you
definitely
where
wanna do,
how-
yeah,
how large your system is.
yep, I would appreciate that. So,
Everything worked out with the roundabout going in?
That was pretty easy, right?
There was one gas line conflict. There was one gas line conflict? Or-
Yeah, we had to reroute our
Yeah.
building. We don't know why, but,
Yeah, I hear you.
but no. that was-
Excel
that
and
was-
also MinDOT, 2 entities that are tough to work with sometimes, so. They can be good, but they can be tough.
Right.
Yeah.
all right, thanks, guys.
Okay, appreciate it. Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it, yeah, appreciate it, nice seeing you.
Are we jumping right into this meeting?
We get into 6.
Okay, okay, that's what I thought. Just checking.
No, that was
That was
a
a gas.
different meeting, gas commission, that's right, we started at 6. No, no.
Thought you were late or what?
Yeah. I set up at 6 and you guys had already started.
Yeah, cause that was, cause of Lent and.
Sure.
Is there all the way down this Chattersburg? Is there a-
Pause it. Mute it, something.
What, yeah, on the mic up here?
So, yeah, so the council member, I've forgotten his name now, it's terrible, but.
Joe?
Yeah,
Yeah,
how's he doing?
that, I was gonna find out if anyone had update.
He said, apparently his wife stopped in and said everybody was doing all right.
Okay, good. Look at that.
I don't know if this will help. I did this a while back.
Fast. Right on.
And I just kinda guessed on, like, I don't know if the city would, like, someone else hired the